The Health Fix podcast teaches you how to take charge of your health naturally by giving you the information you need to elevate your health.
Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause, and in today's episode, I'm starting a 3-part series on what's happening as we get older with weight. And today, I'm focusing on the aspect of what to do when you can't lose weight. Now, in the 21st century, we are focusing a lot on data. You might have noticed that we have different ways to track things, such as the Oura Ring and tracking sleep. And we have things like the Apple Watch that tracks how far we go and tracks our heart rate and all kinds of things. So we have these devices. We need to use them for our benefit, because I think a lot of people see these parameters and the data coming up, but don't know how to effectively use it. And so today I'm going to be talking about how to collect data on yourself so that you can learn what in the world is going on when you're struggling to lose weight. So backstory here. I have a ton of patients coming into my office and struggling with their weight. I myself have struggled with my weight my whole life, and it's a battle. You have to know what's going on. Now, I'm in my 40s. When I was in my teens, I was struggling. I wish I had the information that we do right now at our fingertips to figure out, okay, where can I make improvements? So, those of you listening right now, I'm going to be spewing out a lot of different things for notes here. So if you have a notebook and you're listening to this where you can take some notes, excellent. If not, don't worry. I will have everything written out on my show notes at drjkrausend.com, where you can see everything pertaining to this particular episode. So let's start in terms of data. What should we be looking at to figure out what is going on with weight? Number one, sleep. So a lot of us have Fitbits that can tell us about sleep. We have even the Apple Watch can tell us things. And yes, are they 100% accurate? No, but it gives you more than just trying to guess. And really being able to dive in a little deeper and know how deep are you sleeping? Are you getting into REM, the reparative sleep? This is key. This is where things like the Oura Ring come in. So number one, in terms of if you are struggling to lose weight, you got to look at your sleep quality. Sleep quality. And the Oura Ring, I like the best because it tells you a lot about what's going on, but it's also something that you can wear that's not as impactful as a watch. I found I can't sleep with a watch on. It's the weirdest thing. But the ring, I can do okay with that. So one thing to consider. Now, what are you doing with the sleep data? You're looking to see, one, how many hours do you sleep a night? There's a lot of data out there that shows we need at least 8 hours of sleep a night. Some people need more. Now, I might be on the verge of being kind of strange and weird on that, but when I see changes with metabolism, I do see it when folks can sleep consistently with good sleep quality. So if you don't know if you're sleeping well, you got to find this out. Another biggie is if you have a partner that's like, man, you snore all the time and you're gasping in the middle of the night, you got to go check out your sleep study. So you got to ask your doc to get referred for a sleep study, because if you are not sleeping well because of airway issues, now granted, when you lose some weight, you usually will end up having some improvements there, but over time, there's a lot of different things that can mess with our airways and our ability to sleep well. If you have chronic sinus issues, you can have some serious issues with your sleep. So asking your doc for a sleep study, like a home one, is where you'll start off with that. And I'm just going to put note home sleep study, because you don't need as much of an authorization from your insurance company to do those sorts of things. Now, if you don't have an insurance company, this is another issue that I would say might be worth it to find a functional medicine doc who contracts with a company that can do sleep studies for cash pay. Now, there are folks that have that. There's equipment that you can get. So that's something else to think about. That's a whole nother podcast. I'm not going to go there today. But we've all heard the connection to sleep and weight. But we kind of pass it off. I find that a lot of people will be staying up late to watch certain Netflix things. So you know the Netflix binge if that's you. Or you're staying up on social media, seeing what everyone else is doing, scrolling. This is not helping you because that light is messing with your pineal gland right between your eyes there, that spot between your eyebrows actually. And you need that to help you to produce melatonin. Melatonin has a ton of benefits for the body. It keeps cortisol suppressed. Cortisol is our fight or flight hormone, but it's also our hormone to keep us awake during the day. When this guy's elevated for too long, we start getting changes in the body because the body thinks that we are stressed, that we're going on some incredible journey. And what happens is we start to store nutrients we can't repair overnight, and we start to break down muscle. This already happens naturally. 1% a year on average of our muscle mass is lost. What do you think happens with that? We gain fat. So this is where I start to put in macros. So knowing what you're eating. MyFitnessPal, I've used this for years. I like it. I'm familiar with it. There's other tracking out there like Noom and things of that nature, or Lose It. But I find that MyFitnessPal gives the best data, and you can export it to your doc really well so that your doc can look at it and be like, okay, this is where you're at in terms of percentages of fat, protein, and carb. And this is where you're at in terms of grams of fats, proteins, and carbs. You want to know these macros because there's a couple themes that I see in my practice over and over again with females in particular as they get older. We start to not want to eat protein as much. We're like, ooh, we've heard too many data stories on how meat is bad for us. We're flooded with things in, let's put it this way, in the realm of social media, but also just in magazine articles, things of that nature, friends talking about it. Try this diet, try that diet, do this, do that. And then we get confused as to what in the heck does our body truly need. The reality is, if we look at the blanket for everyone, and this is what I've seen over and over again in my I'm on 14 years of practice as of this recording. What I've seen in my almost 15 years of practice here is that most females do not get enough protein in. And especially if you're vegetarian or vegan, you've got to really get on this because a lot of us will tend towards not wanting to eat as much meat, whether it's environmental, whether it's we just don't like it, or a lot of folks will talk about having gut issues with eating too much meat. It's because you don't have the digestive enzymes to break it down. Why? Because you became stressed throughout life. As stress builds, we suck at digesting food. That's what happens. Stress impedes our ability to have proper digestion, which I do believe is probably the root at why our gut goes off the rails and then we start to have metabolic issues because we get weird signals back to our brain like, oh, I don't want protein because I can't digest it well. Give me the easy carb stuff. Or on the other side of things, the more stressed you become, the more you want fatty things, fatty carby things, fatty things in general. This is something to pay huge attention to. So, if you're finding that you're tending more towards vegan or vegetarian, but you're like hitting up the nuts and seeds like no other, you're gonna have some issues. And likely you're going to start building fat, losing muscle, no matter if you work out or not. And you're gonna be like, what the heck? Why am I gaining fat and not able to gain muscle? It's because of what's going on with your macros in terms of what you're eating. Now, maybe you might be saying, well, my trainer has me tracking my macros and my trainer wants me to be on a keto diet. Okay. Here's the thing with keto diets and females as they get older. Yes, in the initial of the keto diet, you might lose weight. Why is that? Because you're not putting junky carbs with sugar in your body. So your body's detoxing off that and you're losing inflammatory weight from that. But after being keto for a while, for most women, and I'm not saying everyone because some people do okay with keto, but for most women that I see in my practice, it goes south. I've tried it myself. I spent 3 years eating keto, and I ended up gaining a lot of fat and losing muscle mass. Because combined with doing the keto gig, I was super stressed out. The more stressed out you are and the more fat that you're eating, the more your body stays in catabolic state, breaks down your protein, and ups the fat. You're going to store the fat. So if you're getting lumpy bumpy, you're starting to notice you have more fat on your body, and maybe you've done a scan. There's things at gyms called the in-body. It's something that tells you how much water weight, how much fat you have on your body, how much muscle mass you have on your body. These are good parameters to know. Do you have to go out and do that? No. Can those scales that tell you that give you a ballpark? Yeah, they can. Electroimpedance is what they use. That's what the in-body does. It measures electrical impulses to get a sense of how much water, fat, and muscle you have in your body. I do think that those are a good parameter to know in addition to your sleep quality, your macros, know where you're at. So, metabolic factors. Now, those of you who are like, I don't have a gym, I don't work out anywhere in particular where they might have this in-body kind of device. You can go to Amazon and get yourself an electroimpedance type of scale to have an idea. There's also handheld ones too. Now, none of this stuff's perfect, but it gives you a ballpark. It's better than nothing. It gives you a really good ballpark. Now, I will say if you tend towards a eating disorder of any type, you want to take this information and work with someone who is familiar in how to deal with eating disorders. Many of us have eating disorders in terms of we just eat too much. But a lot of folks that have the eating disorders, the metabolic factors and the macros can be a problem. I get it. So focus on the sleep instead. It's a completely different podcast if we're going to start talking eating disorders. But I just want to mention it in terms of those of you that might be listening to this and being like, yeah, but this is going to throw me into a state of disordered eating. Okay, go work on that. But we do need to know a ballpark one way or the other and work on our mental aspect around having the ballpark of what works best for us. So going back to your metabolic factors of fat, proteins, and carbs within the diet. So the macros. Like I said before, too many fat grams in a day for most females is the problem. Pair that with too many carb grams, and now you're definitely setting up a recipe to gain weight. What I have seen over and over again work is to work on getting healthy carbs closest to nature. Don't hate on grains. Don't hate on fruits. Eat stuff closest to nature. Don't play with all of the processed, I eat gluten-free, but I'm eating gluten-free bagels and toast and this and that. It's processed. Closest to nature. Veggies. You want to get in at least 5 to 6 cups of veggies a day, along with your protein. You will find that you feel full, because a lot of people come back to me and be like, Doc, if I don't eat fats, I don't feel full. If I don't eat enough carbs, I don't feel full. Okay, then try the challenge of eating more veggies. If nothing else, you're going to get sick of chewing the veggies. A lot of times I have to blend my veggies into a smoothie so that I can get them in. You got to get creative. Once again, something we could talk about along the line. Now, with these macros, this is the number one thing you want to be paying attention to in terms of how are you doing over the long haul. Work on lowering your overall fat. Now, Doc, what's my ideal fat? Well, that's a good question. And this is where you might need to tweak things and play with it a little bit. There are trainers out there who are specifically, and I say trainers, there's coaches as well. You use the term that you like, whatever it is, but there are folks who are trained for a company called Precision Nutrition. Find somebody that is a precision nutrition coach if you're struggling with your macros and trying to figure out what's best for you. These folks have been trained in a great way to have things balanced out. So think about this though. And I'm giving you this info in this podcast because I want you to hear what's real. A lot of these folks posting, oh, keto helped me lose 400 pounds, and I'm totally exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying. People who post all this stuff are talking about N of 1 themselves. Unless they're a coach or a trainer that's seen a lot of people, or there's someone like me, a doc, who works with a lot of people with weight, I don't know what you can trust there. You need information in terms of what is real in the clinical setting. What is real in the office? I see on average about 100 people a month that are dealing with weight stuff. And really the biggest thing about the macros and trying to figure it out is you need accountability. You need someone to work with to help you. And this is why I wanted to do this podcast, but I'm also going to be talking about individualized programs that you can work with someone. And I love the concept of working with a precision nutrition coach within a gym facility, or working with a health coach that can help you to get your macros set, because it can be hard yourself and it can be hard to take the data and try to figure out what works. So what I found works in my office is just that. Up your protein. Especially if you're a lady, up your protein, lower your fat down, play with it. The idea right now is that 1 gram of protein per your body weight is the ideal amount to be working with. And in terms of fat, it's getting the fat and the saturated fat down below 20 grams a day, and really working within around 50 or so grams of total fat a day. Now that might sound super crazy and super restricted, but I've found we've got to work on that. And while going vegan or vegetarian to try to help your situation can be great to start, it's kind of like a metabolic reset. The problem is long term, most folks who are going vegan or vegetarian really struggle to get in enough protein. Now, I am not saying you have to eat one certain way. I want you to go with what works for you. But if you are vegan or vegetarian and you need help, you got to find someone who is trained to help you with your macros and in the vegan vegetarian realm. And I would be looking for someone who's working with fitness as well in that industry, because it does work well. So you got to know your macros. You want to know your metabolic factors in terms of how much muscle mass do you have? How much body fat do you have? How much water weight's in your body? That does make a difference. If you're chronically dehydrated and low in this realm, you got to drink some more water, which leads us to number 4, water. Hydration. So many people run around dehydrated. Now, am I saying you need to drink a gallon of water a day? No, absolutely not. Start with half your body weight in ounces and work up from there. And if your pee is clear most of the day, you're doing great. That means you're hydrated. If your pee is concentrated and is bright yellow, it's too yellow, well, let's put it this way. Bright yellow might mean you ate some, or you took some B vitamins. But beyond that, we're looking at making sure that your urine is almost clear, because that means you're hydrated. Be careful with ideas of drinking 2, 3, 4 gallons of water a day to flush things out. You want to work with, and I'm drinking my water right now, work with what feels good and where you're noticing as soon as you get that urine to be clear. Okay, you're hydrated for the moment. Work with it the rest of the day. Now, the other big factor that I find for a lot of folks with weight issues who are desperately trying to lose weight is that they're not paying attention to their heart rate. And there's this huge surgence right now of HIIT workouts. Lose body fat with HIIT workouts. Yeah, it can help. But if you're doing HIIT workouts day in, day out, guess what? You're going to have some trouble, because HIIT workouts cause stress to the body. And if you already live a stressful life, or you have a history of little traumas, big traumas, things compounding, guess what? All of that HIIT workout is going to keep fat on you and help you to degrade your muscle mass more. I recommend one HIIT workout where you push it to the limits a week, and limits mean your upper level of your max heart rate. But if you don't know what your heart rate is on average, it's hard to figure this out. So, to be able to lose weight, you got to know your data in terms of your base heart rate. So what is your heart rate? I'm writing on my board here, heart rate. What is your heart rate when you wake up? What is your basal metabolic heart rate? So that base heart rate when you're not even doing anything. So check this. Check in AM. Do this weekly so you get yourself an average. Know what your heart rate is. The Apple Watch is able to tell you that. There's other devices that can tell you that as well. When you have an idea of what your average heart rate is, then you can look at your heart rate in the morning, and if it's 10, 15 points above its average, you didn't recover from the day before. You didn't sleep well. Maybe your workout pushed you too hard, which, going back to sleep, your sleep quality can be directly affected by what kind of workout you do. If you push too hard in a workout, day in, day out, you might be jacking with your sleep so that you can't recover. You can't recover, you can't put on muscle, you're going to gain fat, and your weight's not going to change. You've got to think about these things. So heart rate's one thing. The next thing is heart rate variability. They kind of go hand in hand. Heart rate variability is how well you can control your heart rate over time. This is one parameter that we can improve as we get older, which is awesome because you can train yourself to manage stress effectively with your heart rate. And it comes down to breathing, and it comes down to working out in a certain style where you challenge your heart rate differently based on the day. So let's go back to HIIT workouts. What do you do with HIIT workouts? You push it, balls to the wall every single workout. This is why people with CrossFit backgrounds have trouble keeping weight off. You can see the muscle under there, but you've got a fat suit on top. This is a problem. This is a problem that happens with a lot of people who are physically fit and keep trying to push it to the limits because maybe it feels good and maybe they've done it since they were 20 or in their teens. But the problem is that we haven't paid attention to the heart rate to make sure that you're not pushing yourself. You're giving yourself the ability to recover. Killing yourself in every single workout is not a good idea. So making sure that you're paying attention to heart rate and heart rate variability, HRV. You can check this through the Apple Watch. There are other ways. There's a system called the Morpheus, which is an app that I use with a device called the M5. It's like a band that you watch what's going on with your heart rate variability. There's Garmin bands that go around your chest, so a chest strap. Polar is another great company to use to help you to check your heart rate variability, and they can sync with watches, they can sync with phones. It's important to see, is your heart rate variability score good? The Oura Ring will actually tell you that as well. So you can do sleep and look at heart rate variability just based off of a ring that you wear. It's kind of cool. But here's the overall point. Say you're like, okay, doc, I don't want to be checking all this data all the time. Great. Watch what your heart rate does during your workout. Get a good sense of what's happening even on that Apple Watch on a baseline. If it looks like you're redlining quite a bit, you've got a problem. You're pushing yourself too hard. If every single workout, you can't have a conversation during the workout because you're sweating so much and you're just completely wearing yourself out, it's too much. 1 day a week that way. Then after you push it, then do a rebound day, active recovery, where you get that heart rate down to 120 and you're moving every part of your body, get that lactic out, move the blood. You got to be thinking about these things. I have podcasts specifically on it, and I can do one also on that if I get feedback that you want to know more about that. And there's a guy out there, Joel Jamieson. He's really great in terms of heart rate variability information. His website's called 8weeksout.com. Check that out. You'll learn a lot more on there about HRV and how it can benefit you and help you with the weight loss thing. Now, the next data of tracking is movement. We have been more or less brainwashed that 10,000 steps a day is this imaginary target that we need to get to. What do 10 steps a day actually do for you? Well, here's the thing. The 10 steps a day was actually created as a marketing ploy to get you to buy pedometers. Sad reality. Now, am I saying you shouldn't do 10,000 steps a day? No, I think it's good to move. Movement is key. We need to be moving more during the day. Purposeful moving a little bit better instead of just trying to march around to get your 10,000 steps. Do something more fun. Do something that has the ability to help you gain muscle. So here's the other thing. With movement, we want to be doing movements that help us with strengthening our muscles. Walking can do it to a point, but we need to challenge a little bit. I am a huge fan of working with any exercise that's going to help gain muscle. Yes, some weightlifting. Yes, you can reverse muscle loss as you get older. You can also prevent it by working with weightlifting. So if right now you're just doing your steps a day and you're like, I can't seem to lose weight, get some weightlifting in. Because the more muscle mass that you have, the more metabolic activity you have within your body. This is why we gain weight. When our fat goes up, right, and our muscle goes down, we're degrading our ability to metabolize. Our metabolic activity is lowering. When you don't sleep, when you eat too much fat, when you are pushing yourself to the limits in your job, and you're stressed out all the time and not taking time to rest, you're going to be stuck in what's called a catabolic state, a breakdown state. And what does the body break down first? Muscle, because it can get glucose from the muscle. So the more you're breaking down muscle, the more you're putting sugar back into your bloodstream, the more that sugar can get converted to fat. And it's just like the cycle just keeps going. So make your movements count and consider working more specifically on gaining some muscle mass so you can gain metabolic activity back. You can increase it. The more muscle you have, the more active metabolically you are. Work on that. All right. So now we've gone through those types of data. Now let's get into the geeky stuff that I love so much. Asking your doc for some labs so that you can see what in the world's going on within your body in real time. So, obviously, by this stage in the game, everyone's kind of heard about cholesterol. It's good to know where your cholesterol levels are at. Your total, your LDL, all that stuff. Get your cholesterol checked. Know where that's at. The higher the cholesterol is, the more problems you might be having in terms of metabolic activity. That's an issue. You can use that as a parameter. We also want to know what's up with the thyroid, not to blame it for all the issues. You know how many times I put people on thyroid medication and nothing happens with their weight? Almost every single time. Just having extra thyroid hormones in your body doesn't help. I've gotten to the point now where I'm struggling to give people medication for it because I feel like it does not help the situation, especially when the underlying goal is weight loss. You don't need more thyroid medication. You need more data to figure out what in the heck's going on. The other thing is hormones. Yes, your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone levels, your cortisol levels have an impact on what's going on with your weight. Is it all of it? I can tell you right now that yes, I can optimize people's estrogen levels and progesterone and testosterone, and they're not becoming ripped in like a week. It takes time. It takes over 3 months for things to stabilize. Same thing with the thyroid. But you do want to know if it's severely off and we're in a case where you do need medication, absolutely. But if it's slightly off, don't rely on the medication to save you, in this case, is what I'm saying. Hormones, bioidentical hormones, can help with a lot of the symptoms of aging and perimenopause and menopause. Are they going to be your saving grace to finally get you to lose weight? No, they're not. I wish it was that case. I don't have people magically losing weight in my office by putting them on bioidentical hormones. I know that they come in thinking that and hoping that, and I try to explain that there's a lot of other factors, as you've seen. I'm on number 7 of all the data we need to be looking at to figure out what in the world's going on with the weight. The next thing is blood sugar. Are you insulin resistant? Have you been stressing yourself out getting too much of the breakdown of muscle into glycogen. So the glycogen stores are where we have glucose, so sugar in the muscles. Breaking down those muscles to get sugar into the bloodstream because we're so tired. We're not recovering from our day, but then the body doesn't use the sugar, so it turns it back into fat. Are we breaking down muscle and putting on fat that way? It's good to know if you're insulin resistant. Ask your doctor for a test called A1C. It's your blood sugar over time. Your glucose might not show you stuff. You can also ask for insulin resistance IR markers. LabCorp does it, so does Quest. Those are things you can easily ask the doc for. CRP. This is called C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein is an inflammatory protein marker. How inflamed is your body? If I see the CRP up, I know we've got other issues, meaning you're likely in catabolic breakdown state because your body's stressed out because it's fighting something. So it could be a virus, a bacteria. It could be a mold. It could be yeast, which yeast is in the category of mold for those of you who are keeping track on me. But this is an issue. We might have something inflaming the body. It can also be food sensitivities. It can also be chronic stress. You could also be pushing yourself to the limits with workouts. There could be cardiovascular issues going on. CRP is huge to know what you're working with because you want to get that inflammation in the body down. Otherwise, you're not going to lose weight because your body's stuck in a state of fight or flight because it's inflamed. You also want to look at your white blood cells, red blood cells count. It's called the CBC. The CBC tells us a lot about what's going on in terms of overloading. Do you have too much iron in the body? Do you have too many red blood cells? That can be an issue for weight loss. Do you have too little white blood cells? Too little means you might have a vitamin D issue. If vitamin D is low, this can have a hormone effect and it can also have an effect on your weight. The most common deficient vitamins I see are vitamin B12, folate, and D. Why? Because we blow through them when we're stressed. The other biggie is magnesium. If you have tight muscles, chronically tight muscles, and you're having trouble sleeping, or you're having PMS issues, if you still get your period, magnesium, cramping, magnesium. So B12, folate, D3, and magnesium. Ask your doctor to run those. See what you get. The magnesium levels might not get much out of them in your labs, but you can at least try it. There are specialty labs that are a lot more detailed in this case. Now, the next thing is looking at something called the CMP. So I'm going to give us a little bit more space here on the screen. CMP is a metabolic panel. CMP looks at what is going on in terms of electrolytes. It looks at kidney and liver function. So the CMP, kidney and liver function. If your liver's backed up and you've got a fatty liver, you're going to have elevated enzymes. That's a big marker. They're going, okay, we've got something going on in the gut causing the liver to back up and get fat created in the liver. Fatty liver. It's really plumbing back up here. Big deal. Kidney. If we got some kidney issues, we got to think about filtration, fluids, stuff of that nature. If you have issues in terms of your electrolytes, because this complete metabolic panel will show you what's going on with sodium, potassium, chloride. If those guys are super low, you're becoming depleted. Your adrenal glands can't control your electrolytes. You're wearing yourself out. Chances are you're going to be in a catabolic state. Breaking down muscle, putting on fat. This is a big issue. So you can look at all these through regular labs. Your doc can check that stuff out. And that is huge information. And if your doc orders it but doesn't say much about it and says your labs are normal, come to a functional medicine doc, go to a naturopathic doctor. They can help you to figure out what do you need to do to help get you back on track. Because there's a lot of parameters in labs that more or less are overlooked, being on the low end of things, being on the high end of things. We can have some issues there. So pay attention to your labs. Now the next thing is specialty labs. And this is where folks that are specialty labs. These are folks that are functional medicine docs, naturopathic doctors, even regular docs can do these labs. And with the beauty today, we can order a lot of these specialty labs online ourselves, which is awesome, and get interpretations from the companies that can help you out. I do think for anyone that's having issues losing weight, you want to know what's going on with your gut. My two favorite tests for the gut are Viome and GI mapping. Viome you can get on your own online. Tells you what's going on with all the microbiome, all the bugs in your gut. GI mapping is something you'd have to get through a doc, but GI mapping tells you how well do you break down fats, proteins, carbs in your gut. What's going on? Are you missing enzymes? How inflamed is your gut lining, and what markers do we need to be paying attention to? Viome doesn't give you the markers. Viome will tell you what's going on in your gut and what do you need to fix, but you're not looking at the exact markers that GI mapping does. So think of it as Viome's like a basic screen, GI mapping is just a higher level. So if you have gut issues, you probably want to be considering the GI mapping at this point. But if you're just curious and you're struggling with weight, but you want to know what's going on in your gut, Viome is perfectly useful in that case. The next thing is micronutrients. Micronutrients are amazing to test. These are all your vitamins, all your minerals, all your amino acids, and the things that contribute to immunity. There's a test called the micronutrient testing from a company called SpectraCell. So SpectraCell looks at white blood cell levels of your micronutrients. Most accurate testing we have right now in the market to tell us about what's up any given day in your body with your nutrients. I love this test because I use actually this test combined with the hormone test I'm about to talk about, or a gut one, pretty much every single day with many patients. And in particular, the reason being is because it gives us so much data to figure out what is happening internally in that individual. Do we have a gut microbiome issue that's contributing to the weight? Do we have a micronutrient issue that's contributing to the weight? And do we have a hormone issue? So this is Dutch testing. Dutch testing has to do with dried urine testing. And a lot of times we'll run hormones in blood and we won't see anything abnormal. Or we will have something abnormal, but we don't know why that particular hormone is in an abnormal state. The dried urine testing tells us a lot about the metabolism of those hormones. Why are you converting to a certain hormone versus another? Because testosterone, men can take testosterone and back convert to estrogen. Women can take testosterone and do the same thing and cause some issues. It's very common right now for me to see women on testosterone creams that are really high dosages and they can't lose weight, and they've kind of correlated it to when they started taking the testosterone creams. What's happening? Too much conversion of that testosterone back to the estrogen. Dutch testing has nothing to do with anything Dutch. It's actually dried urine testing is what it stands for. But this is a big deal because it tells us a lot about the metabolism. And a lot of females really have trouble with breaking down estrogens through the liver. So you may be in menopause, but if we give you bioidentical hormones and you don't feel well, or things go off, or you start to gain weight with them and you feel puffy, it's because you're not metabolizing those estrogens well. You want to know this stuff before you go on bioidentical hormones, especially when you have it in your head that these bioidentical hormones are going to help you lose weight. Not the case. Optimizing your hormones will help you lose weight. Bioidentical hormones are not the answer. Same thing with thyroid stuff. It's not the answer. It's figuring out what the heck went wrong and fixing that. So the next big thing is saliva. I do like to look at saliva cortisol. Saliva cortisol tells us what's going on in terms of your fight or flight response. It can be too high, it can be flatlined, meaning it's super low and you've burnt yourself out. Or it could be that you are in stress mode right now, like the peak of fight or flight. If you're in peak fight or flight, you are in a catabolic state. I don't care who you are. You're breaking down muscle so that your body has unlimited energy to get you to the next thing. If you don't take time to take a break, you're running marathons day in, day out. And I know it sounds crazy to say that, but for our body, it doesn't know the difference between running 26.2 miles and being go, 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 do under high pressure day in, day out. It doesn't know the difference. You want proof? I can tell you a lot of proof about what's happened in my life over time. I've ran a lot of marathons. I've also pushed myself to the limits in my career, trying to help people get better and at the same time, I made myself quite sick. And why did I do that? Because I didn't take breaks. I didn't sleep. I spent 24/7 trying to work, trying to help people out. And as much as I love helping people, and maybe that's where you're at in your career, you're helping your coworkers, you're helping whatever it is, your team. But here's the thing, maybe you're helping your kids. Maybe you're helping family members. The thing is if you don't put yourself first to figure out what's going on, you are never going to lose that weight. You have to pay attention to what's going on with you. And saliva cortisol was a big one for me. That was like, oh crap. I actually had gone beyond where I was in a stress state. And I'd looked at a couple years earlier, I'd say 2 years earlier, I went beyond that to completely fatiguing my adrenals, meaning I had worn myself out that I wasn't producing sufficient amounts of cortisol. What happens when you don't produce sufficient amounts of cortisol? Your body becomes more and more depleted. Where's it going to get that depletion nutrients from? Where's it going to try to pull nutrients from? Your muscles. It's always going to pull the muscles. So if you look at your saliva cortisol, you can tell, like, are you having issues with your metabolism because you're in a chronically depleted state, because you pushed yourself to the limits and your body's like, I have nothing more to give but my muscles. Here, take my muscles. Now I'm going to put a bunch of fat on. And I keep repeating this because this is really what I see over and over again when folks cannot lose weight. We have to go back to the basics. You got to get the data on yourself, figure out what you can fix, but you also have to look at you. So, of course, this leads me into the next series of what to do when you can't lose weight. Mindset. My next series coming out in 1 week from this podcast, the following podcast, is I'm going to be talking all about mindset. You need the data to know what's going on internally and what you need to adjust. But if you're not taking care of you and you don't have mindset figured out, you're also going to have trouble losing weight. Because over and over again, another big issue that I've seen in my practice, that once people know all their data, we're working on correcting imbalances. If the mind stays in a dark place, we're too frustrated about losing weight. We're trying to take care of everybody else in our lives. We can't get unstuck from ourselves and our self-sabotaging behaviors. We're not going to lose weight. Saying negative things to yourself over and over again about how fat you are, how disgusting you are, these things don't work. I've been there. I also have had a lot of patients who've been there. And this is one of the key things of looking at what to do when you can't lose weight. So we talked all about the metabolic factors, which is step 1, knowing your data. Data is gold. I will have everything listed out for you on my website at drjkrausend.com under this episode, What to Do When You Can't Lose Weight, Part 1. All right, folks, you have survived another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Kraus. I hope you have a great day, whatever you're doing, and please send messages. Let me know what you're thinking. Add some comments. I'd love to hear what you'd like to learn more about. And if you want to carry this conversation further, head over to Facebook and join my Facebook group, Find Your Health Fix, because I'm going to be doing some Q&A sessions and talking all about the topics that I've presented in this little mini series. All right, that's it for today.
Hey, health junkies, I hope you enjoyed my podcast. If you want to continue the conversation based on what topic I'm talking about at any given time on the Health Fix podcast, head over to my Facebook group, Find Your Health Fix. It's where we are talking about what's going on in health, what I'm talking about in the podcast, and I love to answer questions there. So come hang out and join the conversation. And by the way, right now I have a free Manage Your Stress Naturally course that you can grab on my website at drjkrausend.com, because so many people are stressed out right now, and really it has to do with the basics, your routines, and simple habits that are messing you up. So head on over to drjkrausend.com and go check out my free course on managing stress naturally. All right, folks, have a great day, whatever you're doing.
Subscribe, rate, and share info.